everyone, and I tell her this, we got so many emails and messages when we announced she was going to be on the show. Lots of boyhood crushes there attached to Lea Thompson.
Mm-hmm.
And you really like Some Kind of Wonderful.
Mm-hmm. I think that may be my, it's really funny. That may be my favorite John Hughes movie. That may honestly be my favorite one, and that's because of her and obviously Mary Stuart Masterson. I mean, and Eric Stoltz, the man who never ages.
And the man that was originally cast in Back to the Future.
Yeah, so I mean, I do really love Some Kind of Wonderful. It's a great.
You know what? We talk about Some Kind of Wonderful. I asked just for you, man.
Thank you, man. Thank you so much.
That's the kind of friend I am.
You are a very good friend.
So here is Lea Thompson, guys, talking about Back to the Future and a whole lot of other things. You actually wanted to be a ballerina before you got into movies, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I really wanted to be a ballerina, but I didn't quite have the right body for it. So luckily, I found acting, which is, I'm sure I was much more successful as an actress than I would have been as a dancer. I think it really helped me. I mean, it really helped me for parts like Back to the Future, just because people carry themselves differently in different times, and when you have a lot of control over your body, you can change your character a lot.
Did it feel natural to you when you started performing on camera, or did it take a while to kind of get acclimated and find your footing?
Well, I think it's always a learning process. I am still learning, so and you forget, and then you have to relearn. So. Yeah, it's different to go from stage to film and from dance to acting, but I eventually got it. I made a few mistakes. I'm pretty horrible in Jaws 3D. My first movie was awful. I remember my brother said, "You have a nice laugh in that." That was the only thing he could say good.
I think it was pretty hard to come off very, very good in Jaws 3D for anyone.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
But when the Back to the Future opportunity came about for you, how did that come about, and what were your initial thoughts about it?
When I read the script, I thought it was really great. I loved that my part was so, I got to be so versatile, and I really understood the characters. I understood the beaten down, unhappy, alcoholic mom. I understood the young, happy, horny girl. And I just understood the characters, and I thought that the story was really amazing. I mean, it was really a great part. And I had done a movie called The Wildlife at Universal, and so they were looking actually at Eric Stoltz, who was in the movie as well, and they saw me, and they were like, "We got to get that girl. Let's get that girl in here." So I that's how they found me.
And so there was no read or anything like that? They just hired you straight out for the part?
Oh, no. They put me through the ringer for sure. I had screen tests, and I remember doing a screen test. Well, it wasn't really a screen test. It was a video test, and I remember Steven Spielberg was running the camera, and I was like, wow, is this how Hollywood is all the time? And they put like a schmata on my head, like a little scarf on my head, and a wig to see if I could play the older lady, and it was kind of fun. We were laughing the whole time.
So when you conceive of the character, did you fill it in with your own mother and your own sense of your mother?
No, my mom wasn't like that character at all. No, it's probably like my girlfriend's moms growing up,
Mm-hmm.
My mom was never beaten down. No one ever got my mom. She's an amazing person. My mom's like a diva, and a fantastic woman. She's still like painting and writing songs at like 83. But I think I was playing some of my girlfriends growing up in Minnesota, their moms, more beaten down. The world did not win with my mother.
When you're playing it, though, this applies to Back to the Future or anything that you do. Is there usually a moment when you think I've got this, or are you always questioning whether you're playing the right note, so to speak?
I think there are some times when it clicks in, and maybe more on stage, but sometimes in film. I did a musical for 8 months, and I could feel it like boom when I could get, when I was singing these songs, and I could get the whole audience. It's very exciting. But sometimes, crews on movies are really, they're kind of trained to not react because they really aren't supposed to laugh or cry or do anything. They're supposed to not be there. So it's kind of a weird thing. But sometimes you can feel when you get the character, and it's very surprising as an actor. Sometimes you think some character should be really easy for you to do, and it doesn't come at all. There's a little magic that's involved in that, and I did know those characters were very. Not that I didn't work really hard on that script. I really worked hard on it, but I knew these characters and I loved them, and but it's not always like that.
So you had actually started the production with Eric Stoltz, and there was reshooting involved when Eric left, wasn't there? How long were you guys into production when that happened?
6 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was a big deal. 6 weeks in, and so all that had to be reshot. There were a few shots they used. There were some stunts from there's a whole skateboarding thing. There's some stunts that they kept, and a couple of close-ups and stuff like that. But most of it had to be reshot, which was really awful. But
when Michael J. Fox came in, was the chemistry automatically there? Did you automatically kind of connect to him?
Michael is a comical genius. He has a shtick. He from doing the sitcom, he had a lot of tools at his disposal for comedy that, are things that not everybody has. They're not skills that all actors have, and so he was unique and wonderful, and I could tell that the material worked better with him, just because he knew how to get a laugh all the time. He was remarkable that way. Walter Matthau's the only other actor I've ever worked with that, he could make anything funny. Like when they needed something to be funny, he could find a way.
Yeah. So when you were shooting it, did you feel like it was something special? Did you know that it was working?
When you're doing a movie with Steven Spielberg, you're like, oh, okay, it should be special. But when we were doing it, the story was working so well. The story was so good that I think we all knew it was something special. And then when we wrapped, they put it into such hyperspace. They edited it for, I think it was out in 4 weeks or 3 weeks from the time we wrapped. It was in the theater. So we knew that they knew they had something special. But I didn't really believe that it would, you never think that something would still be celebrated 25 years later, and new grandchildren would be watching it. I feel really blessed.
That's got to be one of the most satisfying parts of this whole thing for you, because when I was a teenager, I watched it, and now as an adult and parents that were my age back then, they're showing their kids. It's a whole generational thing, and it's a great family experience too.
Yeah, it is. I think there's something really deep about it, and I think that Crispin Glover and I, were very. There was a lot of pathos in our performances, and the idea that your parents were people, young people with dreams, and that their lives, that they got dragged under by the undertow of life and lost their spark, and that the kids, that their own son could bring that spark back is like a beautiful thought, and I think it's resonant. I think it was definitely disguised. The story of friendship and redemption was disguised in this really brilliant, funny time travel story, but there's a lot of depth in the script, which is, a script has to have that kind of depth in order to endure, I think, because it's resonant.
Well, were the next two films, the two sequels, were they similar experiences for you, or were they completely different animals from this first film?
They were completely different because, just because. I think sequels are always problematic that way. But I think, I also, because they didn't have Crispin Glover in them, it was a little bit harder for me in the sense that I would have less to do. Although the second movie I actually love.
Yes.
And I forget about it. When I've seen it, I'm like, wow, it was like for me as an actress, I got to do so many crazy things. I got to be that like boozy broad with the big boobs, and I got to be this crazy old lady, and and then I got to be young again. It really required every bit of my acting chops. But the third one was not as much fun for me. But although I know that it was for Chris Lloyd, his favorite movie, because he got to kiss a girl. I think it was the only time in his career.
But that was a very unique shooting schedule too, wasn't it? Didn't they do that back to back? There was no break between the second and third?
They were just setting out to make the one movie, and the script is long, and I don't remember how far into shooting it was. Not very far. They went, we're going to just expand this and make it 2 movies. Excuse me. Because they knew they could never come back. Michael wasn't getting any younger, and it was just made sense. So we shot for an entire year, and it was very difficult on Bob Zemeckis.
Well, I wanted to ask about Mr. Zemeckis real quick. When you watch the movie or the movies, what do you see of Bob Zemeckis in those movies?
Oh my goodness, I see so much, and it's one of my favorite memories of those movies is just how much joy he had making them. At least from my perspective, he was always giggling and trying to think of something new to do and some other little bonus treat to give to the audience. And he had such delight in creating those movies. It was a real joy to behold. I just think of him giggling all the time.
Now, do you participate in the, because I know they have fan events for Back to the Future and that sort of thing. Have you participated in any of that, and what are your experiences with Back to the Future, kind of diehard fans?
I do. I have done a few of these things, and it's really lovely. It's really touching how much it means to people, and they bring their families and their grandchildren, and it's at first I was like, wow, this is odd, but then I just, there's so much love and fun, and and Chris Lloyd, I've seen him at a few things, and he just has the best time. People love him so much, and he's kind of a shy person, and it's really fun to see him interacting with fans and exchanging all those good vibes, and it's fun. It's fun to have something that's and help keep it alive a little bit. It's amazing how many fans there are out there. Yeah,
this movie has endured like no movie from that decade that I can think of.
Really? Oh, that's sweet.
Oh, it still works just as well as it did the first time you saw it. It does not age. It's timeless.
It's really good. It's really good. I know. The music I love, too. I just love the music.
Can I ask you just one question about a movie you did after, Some Kind of Wonderful, which is a big favorite of one of our co-hosts on the show. His name's Jerry. And we actually spoke to your husband last year, I think, for our John Hughes tribute.
Oh.
And I was wondering if you had any thoughts about the time that you spent with Mr. Hughes. I would think that you guys did interact.
Yeah, I actually did another movie with him Dennis the Menace. He produced.
Mm-hmm.
You know, John was always a little bit of an enigma, but I remember one thing specifically. He was very serious about his characters. They were very important, and and that was a great thing, for a young actor to have a real respect for the character. And I remember one time I was shooting Some Kind of Wonderful, and we were at a gas station, and I was in this convertible car or whatever, and John came around and he goes, "Can I see something?" And he motioned for my purse, and he said, "Can I look at that?" And I said, my prop purse, and I handed it to him. And he was looking in there to see if there was paper or if there was real stuff. And luckily I, had put real stuff in there, as my character. I'd imagined things in my purse, just like I did in Back to the Future. I had gotten all kinds of coins from the 50s, and I put them in there, and I had the right compacts and everything. No one in the audience will ever see it, but it helped me feel more like I was in character. And so thank God I passed that test, the John Hughes first test. But I just was always struck by how important the characters were to him, especially in Some Kind of Wonderful, not so much in Dennis the Menace. But he was an interesting cat because, you wouldn't talk to him for like 2 years, and then he'd call you and you talk to him for like 4 hours. Mm. He was really, he was a real honest-to-God genius.
Yeah, and defined a generation, really. I mean, his impact is just enormous. Speaking of your husband, you, who is a great director, you've turned to directing. Tell me about that. Was that what surprised you about yourself in that role of director?
You know what surprises me is I'm not very nice. I'm not like super nice to actors. And I have this real problem with right and left. Like, move a little to the right, move a little to the left. It takes me like 20 minutes to figure out which way is right and left. I don't know what.
So you're actually lacking direction.
I'm lacking direction. So I'm constantly like moving people, which is super rude. I'm like just and I'm not as I'm not real touchy-feely as a director to the actors, because maybe because I really respect people who I hire, and I know they don't need a lot of hand-holding, but someday I'll run into an actor who needs some, or a lot, and I'll have to really dig deep, because that's what surprised me. I thought I'd be more sensitive, but.
Well, do you direct actors in the way that you like to be directed?
Perhaps. Maybe you've just taught me something. Maybe. Yeah. But I can't tell you how. This is another surprise to me, is, when you're doing a scene with another actor as an actor, it's, whatever. It's just whatever, and you walk away. But when I'm sitting behind camera and I'm watching two actors, I'm directing them, when they do something great, I like tear up. I'm just like so excited. I'm ecstatic about how the scene is going. I'm so proud and full of just unbridled love.
Yeah.
It's such a great feeling.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you directing something upcoming? I think I saw a credit that you might.
I am trying. It's a hard time for independent movies. So, the financing kind of starts and falls out and comes back and falls out. So right now I'm playing that kind of roulette with a movie that I want to do. So, but it'll happen. Something always happens.
Well, in the meantime, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. But I really love directing. I mean, I love our business. I love any part of it.
Mm-hmm. In the meantime, you do have some upcoming projects, don't you?
I do. Well, I did a pilot, which didn't get picked up, but I have a movie called The Convincer coming out, which I think is going to be fantastic. I really do. And it's an independent movie, but it's just got an amazing cast, and Greg Kinnear and Alan Arkin and Bob Balaban and Billy Crudup, and it's a great cast, so I'm really excited about it.
Does that have a release date attached to it yet?
Not quite yet. I'm just looping tomorrow, but I'm absolutely certain this amazing woman directed it, and who happens to be my neighbor. I met her because of my cat. That's how I got that job. My cat was flirting with her cats, so I met her. So anyway, that's a very exciting project, and my daughter is acting. Howie and I's daughter has started. Both my daughters started acting, and I produced a movie called Mayor Cupcake, which should probably be out sometime in the fall.
With Billy Crudup, right?
No, this is a different movie. This is with Judd Nelson.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, that's okay. This movie called Mayor Cupcake with Judd Nelson, which is a bizarre kind of circular thing. It's that my daughter sang "Don't You Forget About Me" to Judd Nelson and I, and we were shooting that the day after John died. So we were just Judd and I were both so overwhelmed just hearing that song, which you really think about him from The Breakfast Club. That song is so powerful from The Breakfast Club.